Hey, this is Ellen in St. Bart's. It's Saturday morning, my friend, and you are listening to Light Talk.
Hi, this is Brackley in Las Vegas, Nevada, and today we discuss controlling LED, is more better, what makes you an artist, and how to be sensory friendly, all on Light Talk.
And this is David coming to you from high up in the canyons of Canyon Country, Valencia, California.
Yay!
I'm recording today in Lori's closet, and I'm going to put on some of her clothes in the middle of the show just to spice things up a bit.
Things we didn't know about David.
That's true. We're going to learn them all today.
Don't go there.
You are listening to Light Talk, and we are the Lumen Brothers.
And sister.
That's right, Ellen. Welcome, everyone, to episode 361. And you know what that means?
We're on the other part of the 360.
We've crossed the Rubicon. We now have to do another 360, as Ellen was talking about last week. It's never gonna end.
Right.
It's like Dante's Inferno.
And Stan was saying last week, it should end. Right.
So Stan always wants it to end. Until it ends, then he's going to be pissing and moaning about an ending. Do you have any news? Anything going on in St. Bart's or in Las Vegas?
Nope, same old, same old.
Nothing much going on down here.
And now that the Super Bowl's over, it's just kind of now quiet again, thank God.
I was just going to ask, like what we were talking about before, if Vegas is becoming more of a sports center than an entertainment
center. It seems
center.
that way with F1 and the we have the Golden Knights, the Oakland A's apparently are coming, so it's becoming a sports and entertainment town.
So are they building another arena for the baseball team or
we're
stadium?
getting
What is it?
an indoor baseball stadium. They're going to tear down the Tropicana and build a baseball stadium in its place.
Wow, that's interesting.
Wow.
But you know, sports is entertainment, really. I mean, it's just a different type of entertainment.
Well, sports is entertainment, but generally speaking, they're not in a casino building, and the entertainment was a way to get a lot of people into the gaming, which is why the shows in Vegas never had an intermission.
Yeah, 90 minutes.
Eat, go see the show, and walk. You have to go through the casino to get there and through the casino to get out.
Right.
And the Golden Knights have done quite well, here, and they're in an arena right next to all the casinos.
Are there slot machines? Are they allowed to have slot machines in the lobby of the sports arenas?
No, I've not seen them in the sports arena.
Interesting.
The airport, yes, but not the sports arenas.
I have an idea. Instead of baseball or football, do a pickleball championship in the middle of a casino. You could fit a few pickleball courts in there.
I'm sure they've done that.
Oh.
That sounds like fun. So I have the first question. Jimmy from Portland writes, are pixels on an LED wall DMX controlled, and can I integrate them into my light plot?
I think the answer is yes. That's my answer. I've never actually dealt with a DMX wall. Have you?
Yeah, I've dealt with LED walls, LED tape, LED tubes, LED everything.
Well, we've done those, but I've never done a wall.
Yeah, the question, is it about wall or just LEDs?
It says
wall,
LED
your
wall.
LED wall, the pixels like on your LED tiles, wherever they are they DMX controlled?
The answer is yes, they are.
Yes, I was right. I'm right.
You're right. Yes, you get the duck. It depends, when you're doing a show and you're going to be controlling LED, whether it's a wall or anything else, you got to have to know what the content will be, because that's the key. If you're doing something simple where you're having chases or, you're throwing some sort of effect through it, then yes, you could probably get away with like the media servers that are in these smaller consoles, like an Ion. And I've done shows where I've had effects I wanted to use with LED tape and effects and things like that. And I've actually run video signals through an Ion and have that send through DMX into the wall or into, a bunch of LED fixtures or whatever. This movable pattern that went with the video and or music, actually. So you can do stuff like that. But if you're starting to get into more sophisticated video, then you need to use a dedicated media server, something, like...
Disguise, Green Hippo.
Pandora.
But you could also use Isadora or QLab, and those are reasonably priced. That's really the key, is find out really what you need to do and then use the right tool to do it.
Yeah, so we had Moving Light Labs, and we had LED fixtures that we were able to work the pixels on those fixtures individually. So we were able to program that through the DMX. So I have the next question. Jennifer from New York asks, as a lighting designer, what should I know about sensory-friendly performances that are scheduled for my theater?
Oh,
Sensory friendly. I happen to have a definition of sensory friendly because our theater, Nevada Conservatory Theater, we're starting to do some of these performances. So sensory friendly performance is a theater production that welcomes individuals with sensory needs, including people on the autism spectrum, as well as first-time theater goers and young children. The show is modified to allow for patron movement. Staff and actors are trained to accommodate patron needs, and all patrons are welcome to experience theater in a safe, non-judgmental environment.
Right. So sometimes I think that means that, the lights and the sound and the different things are adjusted according to the needs of a specific audience.
Exactly.
So typically, they usually want the house lights to remain on at a dim level so they can see the people, as well as any radical lighting or sound effects are toned down. So any flashing lights are probably not good for the sensory-friendly production. And obviously, the sound just gets toned down, the volume.
It's interesting, but when I can't take the strobes, and, when you walk into a performance and it says, lighting in this performance may provoke epilepsy, I'm like, I'm out of here. Or I have to close my eyes. I really physically uncomfortable looking at that.
Yeah, when we do the shows, we advertise it is going to be a sensory-friendly production, so they know it's not going to quite be like it was, with all the lights and the sound.
Yeah, and I assume that these performances are different from the other performances where they may be designed without these considerations. Is that correct, Brackley? That they're like 2 out of the 10 will be sensory-friendly, right?
Right.
It won't be necessarily everyone, but we try to make it available, at least one performance during the run of sensory.
So do you find out ahead of time, like, is it an autistic audience group that's coming in, or is it small children, or is it people with visibility issues,
it's a little bit of both.
Issues?
It's a little. We can advertise it, and we try to get. This is the first year we've done it, so we're still kind of figuring out how that works.
Cool.
But yeah, so we want to get the input of the community, and it's a community outreach thing as well. Yeah,
I got a more specific description of what one of these performances is. It says, and this is from a professional company, I believe from Portland. It said, the music performed on stage will remain the same, but some of the technical elements will be softened to accommodate sensitive ears and eyes. Lights in the audience will be up, but dimmed for the entire show to allow safe movement in and out of the hall. Abrupt, loud sound effects will be set at a comfortable level or warned with a flag signal from the stage. We will have a live feed of the concert in our support rooms for those who need a break from the main hall, but still want to listen to the concert. We also are disabling the automatic flushing function on our toilets in all restrooms. Now, apparently, automatic flushing freaks some people out. I know it freaks me out. So they're actually disabling that in their restrooms. Personally, I think this is a great thing because the more you can expose people to theater, the better. Like Ellen says, you can't deal with flashing lights. And I know Stan's like that too. He has a hard time dealing with flashing lights and loud sounds. A lot of us have sensitive ears. I have sensitive ears now, from years of playing rock and roll. If I'm in any sort of loud sound environment, then my ears start ringing. And actually, I don't think my ear damage was from rock and roll. I think it was actually from the theater because I sat in so many...
The flushing toilets?
No, not the flushing toilets. But it was like just bad sound people who pump so much sound levels and so much feedback during tech rehearsals that it just damaged my ears. And also, what's even worse are headsets that feedback. And I can't tell you how many times that headsets actually hurt my ears from feeding back. So now I have to be careful as well when I go see a show that's not too loud. When I go to concerts, I have custom earplugs made for me that will lower the decibels like 20 dBs just to protect my hearing. So a lot of times I wear those as well. So I think this is a great thing.
And they say it's in a relaxed and inclusive atmosphere, and that's the whole trick.
Right. Yep.
So to answer the question, you really need to find an expert and talk to them about it and make sure that you adjust the lighting levels correctly and the lighting cues as well.
Right. And as a designer, you might want to know that your design may not be seen exactly as you want it to be seen for those performances.
For the one performance, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's like a series of light cues that are like in rapid succession and they're flashing, they're creating a lot of intensity changes. You're going to want to design the correct one light cue to make it to still tell the story. You don't want to leave it up to a stage manager or someone like that.
No. You have to be involved in that.
Exactly. It's still an artistic decision. So that's what you have to do.
Good.
All right. Diane from Parts Unknown asks, I am a graduate student at a well-known university. Students here are very competitive, and I can't help but get caught up in the crazy, I can do that better routine of this place. It seems that all of my fellow students write hundreds of light cues into their shows, and they seem proud of the quantity of light cues that they can program. Why is it to some that quantity is more impressive than quality when it comes to light cues? Wow. So Brackley.
Less is more.
Less is more, right. But when a student comes to you to show them their preliminary cue list, and there are 400 cues on it, what do you say? Besides less is more.
We only have room for 20 cues, so deal with it.
Why?
Because sometimes less is more. We've had students that just write a ton of cues, and for no reason. It doesn't really help tell the story.
That's true.
Right.
Plus, practically, what's the reason?
Pardon?
Practically, why would you want to do a show with 400 cues versus a show with 60 cues?
Well, the stage manager, it helps the stage manager try to call the cues.
That's true.
I mean, that's the other thing with stage managers. If you have too many cues and point cues, they just get too frazzled, and you're not going to get the show that you want anyway.
Absolutely. And also, the fact is that you have a limited time to write these cues.
Right.
And I have always told my students, it's best for you to have as few cues as possible so that you can spend more time in the cue fixing them over rehearsal, which is what you have to learn how to do to work in the professional theater. You've got to do it on the fly in real time. And if you got all these cues written, you have no chance to make that adjustment on the fly because you're in a standby for 3 more cues coming up.
Right.
So
you can't fix anything.
You can't fix anything. And then you're going to have to do it during note session. And you're not going to have anybody on stage, so you can't see the light hitting someone. So it's like a waste of time. And this is something that is really important because it's rare in the professional theater where you have that time to do this. You have to learn how to do this.
That's what we have to teach in school, that you got to be quick.
Exactly. And the stage managers have to learn how to call the show with the lighting designer basically calling levels over their headsets, because that's a skill that the stage manager needs to know. So it is really important to keep those cue levels down. And as Brackley says, yes, more is less is more.
Less is
more
more.
Is less. More is more and less is less. Less is more. And also the quality of the atmospheres would be so much better when you have time to work with them, with actors on stage.
I mean, that also could be said about the number of lighting instruments in the air.
Absolutely.
Right.
Sometimes you have too many lights and it just turns into mud.
And that's what Theron used to say. She said, when these shows are coming over, like, a lot of shows from Great Britain with like 300, 400 lights on the plots in the Broadway, she would always say, she was quoted as saying, why are there so many lights? Where did they find the time to focus all of them?
Well, now they're all moving lights, so they focus themselves, I suppose.
Well, but that was a different time.
Well, not in her day.
I know.
But, I think the key takeaway from this question is what Brackley said about how many cues do you really need to tell the story?
Right.
I think that's your real key
That's
here.
what it's about.
Now, there's another element here, and that is like the zeitgeist of what's going on now with the generations who grew up with 3-second cuts, watching movies and videos with 3-second cuts in them, and television shows, by the way, and shaky cameras and all that other stuff, is that the artistic zeitgeist is that they want to be stimulated, constantly stimulated, and changing lights stimulate. Changing cuts stimulates, changing music stimulates. So I think that the artistic taste of what people are seeing nowadays, and actually over the past 30, 40 years, to tell you the truth, has changed for people's expectations and designers' approaches to lighting. So I think it's also a generation thing. I think, younger designers throw in a lot of light cues because that's what they're used to and that's what they want.
Right.
They feel that's what it is. And there may be a point to that. They really may be. But when you're in school...
Or it may be just flash and trash.
Yeah, we talked about that. Like Ellen's car. She has flash and trash. And, no, she doesn't want flash and trash in her car.
Right now.
All right.
But the funny thing is that we don't necessarily want a play to look like a music video.
Right.
So I think there has to be a happy medium there.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There needs to be. And also directors. Some directors want that as well. So
right.
I think it's a different time, and I think things have changed because of that. Because I had students saying, why am I only limited to 70 cues? And I would say, well, this is the way you learn how to light, is because you're not at that point yet where you could do 300 cues.
And the board can only take 70 cues. Right.
Right.
That's true.
And now the boards can take millions of cues.
That's true. That's right.
Right.
So, there you go.
You are listening to Light Talk with the Lumen Brothers and Sister, and Light Talk is sponsored by
Creative Theatrical Tints. Every show has one. That one person in the company who's a real pain in the ass. That person who, no matter what, always finds fault in their collaborators' work. The jerk who constantly complains about the stage crew, and to top it all off, insults the free prop shop coffee. And why is it that it always seems to be some rogue actor or singer who is the source of this discontent? These are the very artists who depend on the designers and stage crew to look good and stay safe while performing. Still, they cross the line, stepping onto the stage in front of thousands of people after insulting the underpaid and unappreciated staff. Well, maybe it's time to stop catering to these jerks and teach them a lesson. We're not talking about the costume crew strategically placing random pins in their cod pieces, or booby-trapping a prop beverage with a laxative. There is no reason for violence. There are more effective ways to fight back. Hit them where it really hurts, their ego. Creative Theatrical Tints has created a new gel color for exactly this purpose. Presenting Asshole Avocado. That's right. Shine a little asshole avocado on this malcontent and let the audience's response ruin their career. How does it work? Well, after decades of painstaking laboratory research and experimentation, our color technicians and scientists discovered the most objectionable color wavelengths that immediately and subliminally harkens the audience back to uncomfortable memories of dysentery and intense unpleasantness. But the magic of this color is that it only takes a few foot candles to do the trick. Mix just a little bit of asshole avocado over any other color and let the squirming begin. Laboratory testing has revealed that after only a few seconds of exposure, the audience's physiological reactions to this color soon appear as squirming, sweating, and audible groaning. Believe us, there is nothing more objectionable than keeping your eyes on this actor. In fact, our test results show that 87% of actors leave the profession soon after their first experience with asshole avocado. And to meet the needs of our customers who primarily use LED sources, we have developed an asshole avocado LED chip that installs in most lighting fixtures. So isn't it time to rid the theater of these self-absorbed cretins? Make sure you have Creative Theatrical Tints asshole avocado in your toolbox. You never know when you are going to need it.
And now, back to Light Talk.
Well, the wacky sounds of those iguanas, ducks, and monkeys bouncing around Light Talk Central's extremely disgusting atrium means that once again it's time for Let's Talk About. And today's Let's Talk About is all about what makes the artist unique. Now, the reason why we're talking about this today is because the other day I was listening to a great interview with Al Cooper, who is this phenomenal producer, composer, organ player. I mean, this guy is like started in the 60s. He put together the group Blood, Sweat, and Tears. He played on Bob Dylan's first 2 or 3 albums. He toured with Dylan, and he discovered Leonard Skinner when he was working for Columbia Records as a producer. The guy's been in the music industry forever. And he has a podcast called Coopercast, which is really a lot of fun. because you learn a lot of stories about, what was happening in the old days with the Wrecking Crew in L.A. and all those great, great, great producers and artists that were going to L.A. And he was talking about what really makes an artist unique from one artist to another. And his theory, which I found fascinating, is that every artist, because we're human beings, every artist has limitations. They have a limitation here and there. And part of what makes them unique is dealing with those limitations and adjusting for those limitations, which gives them a certain style. And he was talking about certain musical artists who have this. And he said even the great, masters, all of them had something about them that made their art unique. So I'm going to just throw this out. A, do you agree with this? B, as an artist, what makes you unique? So I'm going to just first ask Brackley.
Right. I think you're right. I think it's style. Every artist has a unique style, and that's what makes them unique artists, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Well, are we talking about designers? Are we talking about musicians? Are we talking about painters?
Artists in general.
Sometimes it's being the first on the block, to do something. If you look at Picasso, some of his sketches are so simple, but no one drew like that before, really. He sort of invented this new way of sketching. And people like Salvador Dali stand out from the crowd because he just sort of turned everything upside down.
And the Impressionists.
Right. The people who are the game changers.
The first in their line.
Yeah.
They are trendsetters, absolutely. But do you think that was caused by a limitation they may have had? And I'm not saying limitations in a negative way. It's just that we're all human beings and we all, struggle with certain things. Like, for instance, I struggle with the technical elements of preparing a design. I don't like drafting. I don't like doing any of that stuff. I just want to get into the theater. I want to get into the theater and start lighting. And I think a lot of it has to do with how I developed as a musician, because I didn't take a lot of lessons. I was mostly self-taught because I didn't have the patience.
So you learned everything by ear?
Yeah, I learned by ear. It was easier for me. But I think those limitations actually made me a different type of piano player, keyboard player. I had to overcome them. So I was much more of a improvisational style of player, an artist.
And do you think that has made you an improvisational lighting designer?
I think all my lighting is improvisational.
Yeah.
It is.
What does that mean in terms of lighting?
Well, it's interesting you asked that, because I was explaining this to students a couple of weeks ago. When I do a show, and of course I talk to the director, we talk about the approach and all that, I have a pretty good idea of what I'm going to need in order to create atmospheres on that particular set design. Funny thing is now I'm doing a lot of my own set design, so I can create any sort of canvas I want. So I look at the canvas and I do a lighting design, a light plot that is set up for that canvas, that is set up for that particular set. And then I just go and watch rehearsals and the lighting comes to mind, and I have the equipment already up there that will do it. It's a lot easier to do it nowadays when you have moving lights and color changers and all that stuff. You can do all that. But even back before then, when I was doing it, my process was the same. I had really no idea what I was going to come up with until I was in the rehearsal room and visualizing it in my mind's eye. And I guess that's what made me unique, because the directors who liked working that way would hire me. Directors who want to see storyboards immediately, it was like, well, I can give you some ideas of what could happen, but I can't tell you that this is what's going to happen because I haven't seen any rehearsals yet. The ones who wanted that type of, visual art right from the very beginning. No, the ones who want free-flowing are the ones who would hire me, because that's what I did.
Right, so I'm saying, yeah.
And they love working that way. Ken and Paul, they love working that way. So that's why they hire me. But that was a limitation. That absolutely was a limitation. And it's because I don't have that type of patience to actually go in there and be very specific. Because it's collaborative art form, I don't believe it's a very specific thing you could do from the very beginning.
Yeah, an artist, a light artist that I thought was always very interesting is Luc Lafortune.
Oh, yeah.
Who worked with Cirque du Soleil in the early days.
Uh-huh.
who really sort of reinvented the way you look at a lot of things, I think. One of the real advantages that he had is sort of what David is talking about, like the rehearsal process in the old days at Cirque du Soleil in Montreal was like months and months and months and months, and he was there, and it was organic, and the lighting developed with the set and with the artistic conception, and it was just so different as to like being called into a project where the set design is, oh, here's your model, and this is what you're going to light, and you're restricted by, oh my God, there's no lighting positions, or there's a glass floor, or the walls are black, or there's marble on three sides, and, how do you light this? It's just so organic. You sort of said improvise, but I'm not sure that's what you mean. It's really an organic process where it develops over the course of the production.
He came to talk to our class about his design of O, and it was amazing. It was, it was a 6-month rehearsal. Talk about being quick and number of cues, but it was a 6-month rehearsal, and he said he's an unconventional designer. He just goes with the flow and really sees the organic part of what is happening. He goes to the library and picks research out. It was just fascinating how he works.
Yeah. I definitely consider him an artist when it comes to lighting.
Absolutely. And I think, didn't he design Love as well? Or is that someone else?
And Ka.
Okay. No, that's Yves Aucoin, who is a French-Canadian designer.
Oh, that's right.
Who also did a great job there. I think, given the right circumstances, Cirque is an incredible place for lighting designers to really expand. Yves did, I think, an extraordinary job. As far as I know, Luc did
Ka. He designed Ka.
Oh, Mystère.
Yeah.
And some of the other ones, but definitely Yves Aucoin did Love, and I think did a great job. There's some numbers in there that are like, oh my goodness, like the octopus's garden with those huge things of the LED strings, and I mean, it's exquisite.
Right. Or Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. I thought that was just
that may be the one I'm talking about. Yeah, gorgeous.
That had all the LEDs hanging down and the stars going up, and that was amazing.
Parachute.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah, and the parachute. Oh, there's so many incredible moments in that show. I've seen that show 4 times. I mean, it was like, wow. I said every time I bring someone to Vegas, it's like, we're gonna go see Love, or we're gonna see O. One of those two. And I saw Ka, like I said last week on the show. Last time, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it's taken me so long to see this show. That was something.
Ka's extraordinary because of the scenic elements in there, which have never been done before, and I hope they never take that out of there. It is extraordinary.
It's extraordinary, and we watched it from the second row. Second row center, we had seats, and I couldn't believe it. It's just
my favorite cue at Ka was when they had the one light and the shadow puppet.
Yes.
Talk about less is more.
Right, less is more.
Exactly. And I turned to Lori when that happened. I said, this is what Brackley was talking about on the show last week. Because Lori listens to all the episodes, and because she finds it fascinating. And we were talking about that, and she goes, oh, he's right. It's like so beautiful. Because we were literally right in front of those two guys. I mean, really about maybe 10 feet away from them. Mm-hmm. And it was like,
yeah, and
wow.
It's interesting because that's probably the most high-tech stage ever built. And that's the moment that really touches your heart.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. It is quite spectacular. Getting back to the subject, though, it is about, when you say you don't think it's improvisation, it's more organic. I think they're both the same. Organic, creates improvisation. I think they run hand in hand, as far as an artistic process.
Right. But you don't mean like improv every night, like
No, not every night. Once it's set, it's set. Right.
Right.
No, I'm talking about improv in the process.
Right.
The whole process. Okay. I'm fortunate because when you're doing, large scale operas, you have like a year or two process from the first time you get the show until the time you actually show opens. So there's a lot of organic structure happening in the design process, with the designers and, the whole creative team. And then you're fortunate if you're working again in a Class A company, especially in Europe, where you're in the theater for weeks, So there's a lot of design that happens from that point. I'd say in my shows, about 80% of the lighting happens from the time I see the first rehearsal to the time it opens up.
Yep.
Right.
That's just the way I work,
And some of it happens when the first tech, when you're in there with a rehearsal with the actors and the scenery and everybody else. That's when the designer starts his style.
Right.
His or her style.
Yeah.
I also think there are artists who are real pioneers in their own fields. The Robert Wilsons of the world, the Laurie Andersons of the world. and they will then push the designers in a new way to be pioneers to sort of keep up with them.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I think that was a pretty good discussion. I think we had our doubts when we first talked about it. But
No, that was good.
That was kind of fun. Okay.
Yep.
Brackley has our last question of the day.
Melissa in Berlin asks, what is the key to designing a good preset cue? I think the first key is to make it look pretty. And it's the first thing the audience sees when they walk in. So I think it's the most important cue, one of the most important cues. I always say the first and last cues are the important cues in the entire production.
I agree with Brackley that it's an important cue, and a lot of times it's like, I think the lighting is kind of muted, and you are welcomed into the theater by this beautiful tableau that you're seeing, and then as the curtain goes up, in this case the lighting would increase in intensity, it reveals more of what you're going to see, the set, and you might go, oh my goodness, there's a dead body on the floor over there, or there's really two people sitting at the table playing cards, but you didn't realize it in the dim light of the preset cue, but there they are. Are they going to be the first characters you see, or is somebody else going to come on and discover them as you did? And I think it sort of hides and yet reveals when you walk into the theater.
A little tease cue.
Yeah.
It's funny when Brackley said that it's the first thing you see and the last thing you see, which is true. There's an old saying we have when you're a musician playing in a band, that the most important 2 moments of a song when you're performing is how you start it and how you end it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You got to start together and end together. If you make a mistake in the middle, most people don't know. But if you make a mistake at the beginning or the end, everyone's going to know.
That's funny.
I know. That's why the last thing people remember when the lights go out is that cue. And that's what
right.
They remember.
Right. If there's lights still on and an actor's caught on stage, it's like, okay. I don't entirely agree with the idea that it has to be pretty, because I have a
intriguing.
Yeah, it has to set up the audience for the show. Whatever the story is, it's a setup cue. And one thing that drove me crazy for many years when I would go see a production at a university, usually, because this usually only happens at universities, the last thing the lighting designer designs in the show, in these cases, was the preset and the post-set cues. Like, they would design the whole show during a dry tech or whatever they're doing, right? And go through technical rehearsals, and at the very last moment, write a preset cue and a post-set cue. And I can't tell you how many times I heard bad directors basically turn to the lighting designer, and when the lighting designer says, is there anything you want special that you want in the preset? And the director says, oh, I don't care, just make it pretty. Well, I think that's really the wrong way of going about it.
Yeah, I agree.
And one thing I always told my students is that when you're designing a show, you have to imagine yourself as an audience member. You get out of your car, you walk into the lobby, and then as soon as you walk into that theater and you see that preset and the house lights on, that's when the show begins. And you're setting them up for whatever the atmosphere is going to be for the very opening cue of, when the dialogue begins or action begins on stage. Right. And it's the same thing for the post-set cue. If you do a fade to black or you do a blackout, at the end of the show, people applaud, curtain lights come up, curtain call, they take their bows. And even this cue is important, that you don't want to just bring everything up to full. All right. You want to take time and design that so that the atmosphere is working with the set and the people are bright. That's very important. Absolutely. Right. But it's part of the show. You never leave that show. You don't want to reveal things. You don't want light bouncing out and, showing masking, and you don't want, any of that stuff happening. And then as they leave and the house lights come up and you either go out and then you come up on a post set or you just crossfade to a post set, that last thing they see has to be important. Between the preset and the post set, you basically bookend the show.
Yep.
That is the key to me to writing a good preset cue, is don't leave it to the very end. Think about that. Think about what you want people to feel. Yeah, because it starts when people walk in the theater. I think that's the way to go about it. All right. Well, that's the show, isn't it?
Right.
Well, the rocking sounds of the Luminoids tell us that once again you spent another morning listening to Light Talk. You can hear our show on just about every podcast site out there. Check out our website at lighttalk.org and be sure to follow us on Facebook. Also, be sure to subscribe to our podcast. That way you will not miss a second of Light Talk Insanity.
No guarantee is offered regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast. However,
if you do decide to litigate, the Snoot Group with the legal team of Sparks, Burnout, and Chase will defend us until our retirement funds are depleted.
Light Talk is written and produced by the Lumen Brothers and Sisters, coming to you from Valencia, Las Vegas, and St. Bart's.
And be sure to join us next week when we talk about more lighting shenanigans and serve you more of our casserole of nonsense.
Light Talk, broadcasting questionable lumen knowledge and humor around the world.
Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you all next Saturday morning. Bye-bye from Light Talk.
Bye-bye.
Bye.